My diary is wide open. The light of my room is dim. My heart is hurting as I pick up a pen and close my eyes. My life, for all these years, has been a mess. But God, please, let me untangle it tonight, even if it's just a little. I was just 2 when it all began. At first, I started experiencing health issues. I kept falling sick and was extremely pale most of the time. Then one day, my life took a turn for the worst, with me being diagnosed with a disease I was too young to pronounce or remember. Beta thalassemia major, as they called it. It took away my childhood, filled my life with the unending treatments, medications, and needles. In 2006, when I was in primary 2, I underwent a bone marrow transplant. It was a slight shimmer of hope for my chaotic life, but it came with prices too heavy to pay. I had to skip 1 year of school and started on oral chemotherapy, and then, one day, I woke up oblivious, scratching my head, and saw something that shook me to the core, a thick clump of my hair on my palm. I cried in disbelief. Is this really happening? I blinked several times, staring at the hair in my hand, unable to think. Just weeks after the successful transplantation of my new bone marrow, the doctor came into my room one day, looking down, as he announced that I was struck with yet another disease, called the graft versus host disease, or otherwise known as GVHD. It's an autoimmune disease that engulfed my entire scalp and left me with permanent aesthetic scars. With a bald patch on my head and discoloration of my face, I started feeling flawed. After that, I was in a high dose of steroids, because of which I gained a lot of weight. I remember returning to school after a year of struggle and treatments, only to be confronted by my worst nightmares. No one could recognize me anymore. I spent that day sitting alone and scared of being perceived as ugly, because deep down, that is what I felt too. Soon after that, the bullying started, and then came the self-hate. I would return from school and lock myself in the bathroom, crying all alone, wondering, was I really that unsightly, that monstrous? I would look at myself in the mirror, and all I could see was the ugliness staring back at me, a flawed, blemished, imperfect figure. Whenever I left my house, people stared like I was an animal in the zoo. Every time I would go shopping, hair product promoters would come rushing to me, asking me to try their products. Strangers would ask questions. Somehow, in my mind, I had become the society's definition of imperfect. Over the years, I was consequently diagnosed with bilateral cataracts in both of my eyes, hormonal insufficiency, atopic eczema, and type 1 diabetes, all of which kept adding to the weight on my shoulders and the imperfections in my life. Even though I lost the extra weight in these years, it still dawned on me that I was nothing but full of defects, full of flaws. So I started concealing everything about me that could make people think of me as imperfect. I started wearing headscarves. My entire world revolved around nothing else but just headscarves, and more headscarves. The questions stopped. The random staring, bullying, judging, all that stopped. I started looking better in photographs. I was happy. Well, I thought that I was. But I was wrong. Inside my mind, there still was not even a hint of peace. All I had been doing for all these years is to hide my real self, run from my problems, and hate myself. It never made me feel better. In fact, it made me feel as if I had disappeared. People around me didn't understand me. No one knew the real me. How could I ever dream of being accepted when I was constantly rejecting my own self? It was about time I realized that, amidst all of the storms I had faced, not giving myself the right to be me was the most destructive of all. It was tormenting being silenced by my own thoughts. I fought hard against myself and the demons deep inside of me. I hated myself and kept being toxic towards myself, repressing and drowning myself in that pool of aesthetic insecurities. Seeing how pretty other girls were made me feel worse. I felt jealous and envied of other people, and of course, I hated myself for that as well. All of that hate is what kept me trapped inside my own thoughts. No one knew, but deep inside, I suffocated. I yearned to be able to freely unveil the real me to the world and taste that invigorating breeze of confidence and self-love. But back then, I couldn't, yet. Yesterday, I was broken, but today, I'll pick up my pieces. Today is the 29th of September 2017, and I, Emmeline, am ready as ever to live all of my dreams and aspirations freely and wildly, like a fearless lion dauntlessly and majestically rising with pride and dignity, while triumphantly reigning as king and ruler of the jungle. With this, I put my pen down, the stained pages stare back at me, and I allow my tears to wash away the pain. Everything that I had been keeping inside came crashing down. It was hard for countless moments, but then I was free. I myself was the lion in my own life after all. Nothing was ever going to stop me.